Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Amomynous. In today's episode, I'm talking with my very good friend Natalie Hart. Several years ago, she decided to start living more holistically. She got married, she has two kids, and she has incorporated all of that into her lifestyle. And now she owns her own business called Natalie's Elderberries. I think this is going to be an amazing episode to listen to. She's got such good advice. And if you ever need coaching on how to live more holistically, she is the perfect person to talk to. So, without further ado, let's welcome Natalie to the show. Welcome to another episode of Amomynous, and today I have a very, very close friend of mine, Natalie Hart. Thank you, Natalie, so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited.
Yes. Today we are going to talk about holistic living. And if there's anybody that I've ever met that does it so well and that has taught me so much about it, it's Natalie. I mean, Natalie, you have a business. Your whole family is, dedicated to this. All the things that I watch you do, as far as the work that you put into it, the way that you're raising your children, it is really and truly inspirational to see how you do that. So I want to talk about all of that. And I want to talk about how it all started, because I know a lot of it is if you weren't necessarily raised that way, um, and you kind of come into it, there are certain factors that kind of lead you there, So let's kind of start at the point where I know when we talked about your dad and what happened with him and his health. Um, I'm sure at the time it wasn't something that was necessarily at the forefront of your mind, but I feel like that was maybe the origin of kind of what started you thinking about it. So, can we talk a little bit about your dad and what you experienced with him and his health journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my early 20s, my dad was super healthy. I joke just weeks before he died, I lived on the third floor apartment and he carried these huge, chest drawers out on his back, just on his shoulders, and loaded trucks and moved and was super active and healthy and fit. And it just feels like in a blink of an eye, he couldn't get out of his car and walk inside the house. Um, couldn't breathe, just kind of had some struggles. And my mom would bring him to the hospital and they just kind of wrote it off as it's maybe a stomach issue or maybe, he has appendicitis or something silly.
Right.
And it kept going downhill. And so we finally got him checked in. And I actually was overseas in China on a mission trip for a couple of weeks. And
Wow.
my mom brought him to the hospital and fought hard and advocated hard and said, we aren't leaving here. This is not normal. We aren't living here until we find something. And so they did. And so I got a call toward the end of my trip in China that we need to just come home. You need to be home. We don't know what his future looks like or if he'll even make it. So I left thinking maybe perhaps he has appendicitis, and then got the call in the middle of the night that you need to come home. He may not make it through the weekend. So I traveled. It was about 36 hours from China to get back to Alabama. I lived in Birmingham at the time, and came in straight to the hospital. He didn't know. My mom didn't know I was coming home. One of my brothers had to arrange to get me back. And so we were able to get him out of the hospital for the weekend. All of our family came up. There were about 50 of us. We stayed in our house, had a big kind of a last hurrah celebration with him. Went back to the hospital Monday. He had a major surgery to find that he had what they called poorly differentiated adenocarcinoma, which is just cancer. Poorly differentiated is in it's everywhere. They don't know where it originated. They have ideas. It had taken over. And before we could get him to MD Anderson, he died. He was diagnosed Monday and died the following Tuesday. So it just went. I went all to nothing, just literally in the blink of an eye. And I was really young. I didn't understand it. To be honest, I didn't understand. I hadn't been in the hospital, didn't have a lot of experience in the hospital world. But I will never forget fighting for him and advocating for him in the ER and with all the different medical teams and literally camping out in the hospital, wearing the same clothes, and bringing coolers of food just to camp out to be there to help advocate and fight and support my mom and our family in the situation, but then still also have a job to try to maintain
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Just being young and, I wasn't married at that point. I didn't have someone else I could fall back on for that. And so it was a tumultuous time, but also a time that sparked my interest after that to go, okay, what happened here? So many things failed and so many things happened fast that I wanted different for our family. And so
Yeah.
fast forward years after that, we just saw so many other health things unfold that it just sent me on this crazy journey to explore all things health, to say, I want something different. I just want to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize that you were overseas at the
Yeah.
time that all this was going on. I know that you've shared the story with me, but I had no idea you were all the way in China. I mean, that is crazy where you're having to try to find your way back.
Oh, yes.
Um, I could not even imagine getting that type of news over a telephone and being on basically the other side of the world
Yeah.
and having to find a way to get back, not knowing all the answers and what is truly going on. Um, when you talk about having to advocate for yourself and for a loved one when they are ill, I have been there myself with my grandmother, where I think a lot of times, um, when you're involved with, and not all doctors, not all places, but a lot of places where you go and you're trying to find answers, a lot of times you find yourself feeling alone, feeling like you can't, nobody is helping you.
Mhm.
And they just want to say, oh, it's probably this or probably that because of your age. It couldn't possibly be anything, um, fatal or, and you're sitting there going, I know myself and I know this person and something is wrong.
Yes.
So I have to say, like, for you and your mom and your mom to take him there and say, we're not leaving until we figure out what's going on. I think we have to do that more,
Yeah.
because we look to doctors and we look to medical professionals for answers. But a lot of times I feel like we leave places feeling like we have more questions than when we first got there
Yeah.
and struggling to figure out, how do I get some help here? How do I get somebody to like help me figure out what's going on? So I think it's huge that you talk about that and having to advocate for yourself and for loved ones when you don't feel like you have any answers,
Mhm.
and speak up and demand things, because if you don't, a lot of
Yeah.
times you're not going to get anything, but how crazy was it that from the time that he was diagnosed until the time that he passed was such a short window? I
Yeah.
mean, to start thinking about a health and wellness journey at that point,
Mhm.
I feel like would be, even at a younger age, would be something that would be at the forefront of your mind,
Yeah.
and trying to look into it. I know that after that, a little while after that, you decided to move out west
Mhm.
and help your brother with his family. Um, and I want to talk about this because I love this story about how you met your husband, because this does bleed into your family and your lifestyle. But when you were out west and caring for his kids, talk to me a little bit about the journey that led you into starting to think more holistically, and also kind of what led you to getting out there and finding your husband. Can we hear that story, because I just love it so much?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't know a lot about nutrition, to be honest. I couldn't go to a gym and tell you what to do. I went because I was single and I was like, well, this looks like fun. This is a great place to be. Single
Yeah.
lady to mingle. I'll be there. I don't know
Yeah.
what to do, but I can walk a track really good. So we had this opportunity to move out west. So, like I said, I was living in Alabama. I had some family that lived out there. They were adopting two little kids, and I had an opportunity where the Lord just threw open a door. And I just remember saying, hearing the opportunity of, this won't last forever. You don't
Yeah.
have to go, but if you want to, this is the opportunity. But
Yeah.
it's now. It's now, or it's not going to happen. Um, so I sold most of my things, packed it up in a pod, drove myself out west. If you want to know about my level of nutrition at that point, there was a time where I found myself driving, also eating brownie dough, like cookie brownie mix in my lap, like mourning this old season, going into this new season of
Yes.
excitement, so thrill, but also like, what have I done? I'm like doing this by myself. I'm moving to
Oh,
like
yeah.
from Alabama. I'm driving by myself across the country. This is what I want, but what's going on? So we did. I moved in there, and then automatically started classes so that I could be there through DCS, so that I could be part of the process when they brought the two kids home. We
Yeah.
got a call on a Friday. They were in our house living with us on Monday. Set up full bedrooms, moved into a new house. Like I like to live on the edge, if you can't tell. So I thrive on crazy. Like, yes, I've got this.
There's no
I
better
was like,
way,
oh
you're just kind of
yeah,
like, let's just do this.
yeah. You can get stressed. You're not stressed. There's no time. You just like, okay, we just
Yeah.
have to go do it. Like bedroom suits, clothes. We don't even know what size they are. We know their names, I think, but like that's all we knew.
Yeah.
So did that and was there for several months, got to be part of the full adoption process with the judge and got to really invest in their lives. And I feel like build a foundation that has been crucial now 10 years
Yeah.
now as they're teenagers and really needing that. I feel like the Lord allowed that opportunity. And then 6 months into that, or a few months into that, I met Nathan. I was living in Lake Tahoe, had an Alabama accent, really threw people for a loop. And Nathan is from New England. So he's from Maine. And we actually met on Christian Mingle.
Love
I
it.
was sitting in the mall parking lot over Christmas, calling them, so mad that they had still had my credit card and they were processing it. I was like, I don't even use this site. Why are you charging my credit card? Stop this. This is ridiculous. I don't even do this. And then literally a day or two later after that, right after Christmas, on January 1st, he and I met. And I was like, oh, hey. I'm like, you look good. Okay, I'll talk to you, son.
Hey, you're cute.
Hey. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll cancel next month. Okay. So we met January 1st and we got engaged on our second date and got married in July. And then I moved to New England where he lived. He was actually one of the bigger, I guess, biggest help with nutrition because he's really big into it. He played sports growing up. He's really big into health, really big into all that. And I'll be honest, before that, I was really big into like fun binge eating. Like I loved it. I loved all the bad stuff. And so there's a couple of things that help change that. One is health, looking through my dad's situation, looking through just other things that our family started experiencing health wise as I got older and I started to see it better.
Yeah.
And then his influence, but then also I'm going to be honest, getting married. I'm like, I can't, I got to look good. Like I got to do something about this. Like you're getting married. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to change. I'm like, no more binge eating on McDonald's. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It does change things for sure.
Like, it changes things. Yeah. A little more weight training, a little less fillet of fish. So, that started changing. And then when that happened, honestly, I started feeling different. I felt better. I feel like, mental health was better, brain fog, mental clarity, hormones. I feel like everything is so much shifted. And that's when I started seeing, okay, wait, when I get off this track, I feel horrific and I feel like disease is breeding in me, and it is. And so then I kind of start putting pieces together, right? When I see family members falling ill with cancer and different diseases and things like, and just in our immediate family. And we just decided at that point, we're doing something different. We're changing our genes. We come from really bad genetics, both of us. And I heard the quote one time that talks about, your gene pool, your genetics load the gun, but your lifestyle, your diet, your habits pull the trigger.
Yeah.
We have a lot of loaded guns between our families,
health
wise. And so we had to change that, especially before we brought kids into the future, or into the picture. We had to change a lot so that we didn't knowingly or even unknowingly, just in an ignorant way, present them with a lifestyle that was detrimental to their health. So that kind of just took us down this deep, okay, bye-bye filet fish. Hello, making my own fish, dang it.
Yes.
So that's where all that started.
I love that you decided to do that before
Yeah.
you had kids, and it was a lifestyle for yourself and for Nate. Because a lot of times I feel like, you have the baby and you're like, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden I have to like change all these things. And you want to, but the fact that you decided to do that beforehand for yourself and for your marriage, I feel like makes for more of a lasting effect.
Yeah.
If you're going to go that route.
Yeah.
Was it hard to make that transition? I mean, especially coming from the fact where, you're able to kind of just like binge what you want. And was it hard? Was it hard to do that?
Yeah, because you're talking, I moved 3,000 miles to the East Coast. I'm a girl from Alabama. I don't know anything about I was like, Maine, I don't even know where that is. That's a state, I guess. I don't know. And now I'm living there. Here I am living here. Sight unseen. I just moved my stuff, 3,000 miles, flew into Boston Airport and like, hey, here we are. So you're dealing with the first year of marriage, a whole new place, a whole new climate, entirely new seasons there, just like temperature and climate. And then the healthy aspect. But I will say the food aspect, I really feel like was such a game changer because this is what I talk about often with other families and moms is that I want to be in the game. I want to be active. I want to feel good. I don't want to be on the sidelines. I don't want to every day go, why do I feel so heavy and so almost drugged? And so, and I remember for so long feeling that way. I didn't know how to get out of it, but I remember for so long feeling that way. I didn't even know to question it because I didn't know you could feel different, to be honest. I didn't. Until I met him, we started eating healthier on a more regular basis. I was like, oh, this is what it's about. Okay. So, make small changes here and there. So
Yeah.
I think we were in a good place when we had kids to say, I don't want them to experience the things we experienced to get here. But, health is your wealth. And if you don't have it, you're on the sidelines and you're sick. And
Yeah.
so I didn't want that for us. I didn't want that for our marriage, for our parenting, or for our kids. And so we just kind of did a complete 180 and just started just researching and a lot of research just to see what to do, what's healthy, how can we build a healthy marriage, a healthy life, and then do that with our kids, when they entered 2 years later after we got married.
So when you said 2 years after you guys were married, when you had your first child,
Mhm.
what did that look like for you in the journey of having kids? I know a lot of people kind of freak and they're like, oh my gosh, how do I get my kids to just eat healthy all the time? And, when there's a lot of outside influences with
Yeah.
as they get older and you start seeing other kids have this and that, what has that been like for you in raising your kids in an environment with having to teach them about eating healthy? Um, has it been an easy journey for you?
I don't think it's been easy, but it's not been difficult. And I'll say it's not been difficult because we all have a certain capacity. If I
Yeah.
start feeling like I am getting super stressed or super overloaded with it, I pull back. It's not worth the stress is almost more detrimental than the food, right? In
Right,
this
right.
situation. So I take what I can, and you're never going to be perfect. There are things I'm still learning that or giving my kids lunch, and just last week learned about something. Oh, this is, carcinogenic. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
we doing? I've been giving this in the lunch every day. And so then I'm replacing it. And so, I never even knew to read a food label until about 10 years ago.
Wow.
A whole life. Never knew that. Never knew which ingredients were great. Never knew about high fructose corn syrup. Never knew about all the food dyes, just all these things, or even the different things that are mucus causing and inflammatory, and thinking
Inflammation,
your,
yes.
your gut is your second brain. So if your gut is inflamed, you're going to have mental health issues. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to lack mental clarity. You're going to be tired and fatigued and lethargic, and just all the things that come. No one taught us that growing up. We didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't have Google. We didn't have doctors telling us that. Um, and so, we are our best advocate. And so now we have so much at our fingertips that I feel like a quick Google search really helps a lot and keeps you
Mhm.
from being scared and overwhelmed. For us, when we first had kids, I didn't know a lot. I researched as I went.
Yeah.
Everything that is injected or ingested or applied topically to our bodies, everything that goes in us or on us or around us, I read every ingredient. And if there's something toxic in it, and if I have any say so and any ability to say no, we say no to that.
Yeah.
Because there's times you can't. You just have to say, okay, we chalk that up to whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Sure.
So you do it without, learning what is healthy. Like there are so many alternatives. Like for example, today having a fall party for our 4-year-old in pre-K. Um,
Yes. And our
and
kids are in the same class, by the way.
yeah,
So, I know that if Natalie is involved with the snacks, we're getting something good and healthy, and I'm not gonna pick up a child that is, moody. So
that's
there you
right.
go.
Now, they may not eat it, but I'm going to do my best to at least give them something that's
Yes.
delicious, that's healthy, and send you home. But
I'm all for that. I am all for that.
yeah.
Yes.
So for us, like we did all the crunchy things from the very beginning. I reached out and learned and just did so much research to the capacity that I had. You're exhausted. You're a first time mom. I was working, all these different things. Only had limited capacity. So I did the best I could with what
Mhm.
I knew at that point and applied that. And then as I got stable, I applied more, and then I learned more and applied more. So
Yeah.
for us, we are this, like every teacher knows this, every family we go somewhere knows this.
Yeah.
I just bring alternatives. If they're going to
Yep.
have cupcakes, I bring a healthy, cupcake muffin that I make at home. It's easy. I make them in bulk and I freeze it. And my kids love
Yep.
it because that's all they know. That's all they have a palate
That's
for.
all they know. Absolutely. Yes. So walk us through like a typical day in your family as to like what you would prepare for breakfast and then what you would maybe pack for lunches and then through dinner time. What does that look like in your family?
Yeah. So typically, the kids and I, at least, we are gluten free, dairy free, soy free, high fructose corn syrup, basically any kind of additive, something that's really mucus causing, something that is inflammatory,
Yeah.
something that's artificial, super processed. I just try to stay away from. It is not perfect. We're going to have all those things. You
Sure.
just kind of have to go to the grocery store and see what's the best that's available, and do that. So for breakfast, I cook breakfast every day when we're home.
Mhm.
I do eggs and sausage or bacon. There are a couple of days, this is what I've learned that really helps. I'm all about ease. I don't want it to be stressful. I don't need it to take all day. I don't have time and I don't want to be stressed.
Right.
So I let the kids help. we make protein muffins that they get on we have 2 mornings where we leave early for a tutorial. And
Mm-hmm.
today our kids are in pre-K together.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying to cook a whole breakfast and have this whole hoopla, we're having to wake up early or we're stressed and, everybody's yelling and freaking out, trying to get out of the door.
Everything. Yeah. There's a lot
Everybody's
going on.
falling apart. Right. We get muffins and sausage. So in the muffins, I use like sourdough. I'll use organic einkorn flour, which is the only non-hybridized, which means there's no, it hasn't been mixed and messed up and had all the glyphosate and all the other things that we as Americans do to process and mess up food.
Right.
It's ancient. It's where, people used to eat stuff like this all the time. So we're going back to where it started.
Like I said, you're having to go back in
Yes.
time and
Yes.
go back to when things were actually pure.
Yes.
You could get it and you knew exactly where it was coming from, and it wasn't mixed with a bunch of crap that you had no idea what was in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mix it with that. You use real butter. Butter is good. Like Kerrygold butter is really good for you. Any kind of grass-fed butter. Mix local raw honey in it, which is different than an artificial sugar. We use that instead of a confectionate sugar or a brown sugar.
Yep.
Using a natural one. It also has antibiotic, antimicrobial.
Such good properties for you and your body. Yes.
Add some protein powder to it because the biggest thing kids need is protein. They need protein and fat. Add scoops of protein powder, mix it, bake it, and then I freeze. I make probably 24 or 30 or so at a time, a few dozen at a time. And I freeze it. And so they get 1 or 2 for breakfast with sausage. Throw sausage in the air fryer. It is easy. It is fast. It is so healthy. They're getting full fat. You're getting full protein, and it's fun. So they don't feel
and
like,
it's delicious.
I'm just having. Yeah,
it tastes good. You're not. I think people think that healthy food has to taste like cardboard, and that is just not the truth. I think that's kind of just been like a lie that we've been told. It's like, oh, gluten-free bread or whatever. If you're actually making it yourself and you take the time to do it, it's going to be delicious. You can make it taste good, and you don't have to fall into the trap of thinking it's going to just everything's tasteless and it's
Yes.
I love it. Okay, and then for lunch. So, for instance, what would you pack in their lunch for school, and for yourself? Like, what are you having?
So I am a whole different story. I'm usually all over the place eating leftovers and just whatever is there, I'm usually grabbing.
Yeah.
But to back up on that too, we also just don't keep the unhealthy stuff in the house.
Yeah.
So we remove the battle. When you asked about how we started this, one of the best pieces of advice someone gave me regarding food or discipline or routines or whatever it is start how you want to go. It's so much harder to undo it. It is very possible to undo. We're having to undo decades of what we didn't know, right? All the time. But if you start right now with what you do know, it's easier to not have decades worth of life to undo. So for lunch, for example, the kids, they love pickles. Pickles are great. Cucumbers, bell peppers, like freshly shaved lunch meats or turkeys.
Yes.
Or we get uncured pepperoni sometimes, like uncured turkey pepperoni. That way it doesn't have some of the preservatives and nitrates in it. Which
the nitrates. Yeah.
Which again, I didn't know that until a couple of years ago that was even something. Why did you even put that?
Not even thinking about it. Yeah, exactly. What's a nitrate? I don't know. I mean, exactly.
Is that not natural? And pickles, for example, there's only one place we get pickles. It's at Kroger. We get the Kroger brand. Why? Because all the Walmart brand ones or any of this on the store at Walmart have what's called polysorbate in it. That is a preservative that bypasses the blood-brain barrier and is a neurotoxin. Why is that in our pickles? Well, you take something healthy. And
that's the thing. It's like, that's the point. You get it off the shelf and you're thinking, oh, this can't be that bad. And then upon further investigation, it's horrendous for you.
Yeah. And
okay, tell me again, Kroger pickles.
Kroger pickles, Kroger brand.
Because I shop at Kroger all the time.
Yeah. The Kroger brand for the pickles, the pepperoncini peppers, any of that, they don't have the polysorbate 80 in it. So pickles, cucumbers, bell peppers, and then I do a fruit. So like an apple, grapes, strawberries, blueberries. So I typically do a meat, so good solid protein, or do a boiled egg even, with a vegetable and a fruit. So that way they kind of get a little bit of all of it.
Yes.
Sometimes if we do tortilla, we'll do the Siete brand. So it's like almond or cassava flour. Or cassava. I don't even know how you say that, but the grain.
I know what you're talking about. Yes. I've seen that. Absolutely.
They're frozen. They're about as clean as you can get. So, it's gluten-free, dairy-free, again, free of like all the endocrine disruptors and the additives and all the things that still just wreak havoc on our body and just makes it really, the additives and the different things in the ingredients, they just add a heavier toxic load to our body. And so then it's harder to overcome illness. It's harder to recover. It's harder to feel good. And for our kids, we never have ever mentioned anything about body image or size. It's not.
Sure.
It's I want you to feel good. I want you to be full
Absolutely.
of life. I don't want us in the hospital all the time because we've spent way too much with that with as a family as a whole with different
Yeah.
diseases and cancers and things that our families walk through. And I don't want that life. I want us to feel good. And so you notice
Yes.
the difference when your brain is not wired on food dye and it's not wired on additives or heavy from processed pieces of it. And you can just do better. You can do better in school. You can do better in your jobs. You do better as a mom. You're not as cranky and as tired and exhausted
Yes.
when you're eating clean and you're eating healthy. So for us, I need that. My marriage needs that. My marriage
Yes.
needs me to eat well. My parenting needs me to eat well. And so I do that for the kids so that they can have that same that same hope and that same feeling.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It all bleeds into your attitude and
Mhm.
energy level, the things
Yeah.
that you need to get through the day.
Yeah.
I know that Nate is a big, he likes to smoke meat,
Yes.
which is absolutely delicious. I've had. There's nothing like it. Do you guys do that often? Is that something that you incorporate into like dinner time or things, that because, you just put it on the smoker and leave it, and then however long, however many hours later, there it is, and it's
Yeah.
delicious. Do you guys do that often?
Often, at least once or twice a week. And we try to do it
Oh,
in bulk.
wow. I didn't realize you were doing it that often. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Girl, we're big eaters. So we joke when we go somewhere, I'm like, Nathan, I have to pre-feed you before we go to someone's house so that we don't eat out their whole house. Like we eat a lot. Which is another
Yeah.
reason we have to eat like healthy because wow, we intake a lot. But yeah, he smokes at least once, sometimes twice a week. We try to do it in bulk so that we have a couple of days
Mhm.
worth of meals and then we'll freeze the rest of it. So that way, when you flash freeze something, it's frozen at the current state. So
Yeah.
it maintains the nutrients. You thaw it out, heat it up in the oven or an air fryer. And so it maintains that level of nutrients. And then you have another meal. So we smoke meat, we'll eat salads. Our kids eat salad for dinner 3-4 times a week with
Amazing.
meat and,
Amazing.
carbs sometimes. The kids like potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Mhm.
We love avocado for fat. We have a kid that is bony, so tiny. And we're like, you have got to eat some fat. God love him. Super active and like
Precious,
sitting on
precious,
top of just
precious.
like, his little bones. I mean, you got to put some meat on the bone. So we're just
Yeah.
loading him up with avocado or peanut butter, which is, questionable. I know that's more of a fat, not a protein, but we, try just to give them as
Hey,
much healthy as they can. So lots of protein
yes.
shakes around here for snacks.
Yes,
They love
you've
it.
told me just the easy recipe you do for
Yeah.
protein shakes. Like, what do you do for those?
Yeah, so it depends on the level of fun and awesome that I'm feeling. Let's just be honest. If I'm feeling like tired mom, and grouchy mom, I just pour the protein powder in water. So you can
Right.
get goat whey or goat protein or whey protein or a plant protein. So because we're dairy free, I have Grant and I have reactions to that. So we just
Yes.
do the other. So you can just mix a scoop of it with water, mix it. They think it's phenomenal. It's like a milkshake. But then you can
Tastes
also
so
make
good.
a milkshake with it, add frozen fruit, add some vanilla, and full fat coconut milk. That's one of the key pieces
So
because then you
good.
get full fat, full protein. It fills them up. Make tons of it. Drink as much as they want. Freeze the rest of it. You can put it in an ice or popsicle mold. So that way they have a
Mhm.
snack later. Well, it's full fat and full protein. So it's not
Oh my
sugar.
gosh.
It's super
Yes.
healthy. They think it's sugar, right? Because they think, oh, it's so sweet because it's got a bunch of fruit in it.
Absolutely.
It's healthy fruit. It's the natural part of the fruit, especially like blueberries. They're one of the best antioxidants you can eat.
So
So you
good for
pour
you.
that in
Yeah.
there. It's delicious, and they think they're getting a treat. I know they're eating healthy, so it's a win-win.
And what kid doesn't love a good popsicle?
I
I
know.
mean,
I know.
even in the dead of winter, my kids are
Yeah.
like, "Can we have a popsicle?" I'm like,
Like you're in
"Yeah,
a snow bib, but yes, absolutely. You can.
So, I mean, hey, having them on hand and the
Right.
freezing thing, there's a way to be able to prepare things
Yeah.
and prepare in bulk and then be able to keep it in the freezer and just pop it out whenever you need it, which I need to be better at because I usually, when I cook, I don't cook enough to be able to freeze the rest.
Yeah.
And that would be so helpful.
Yeah.
Whenever on a night for dinner where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to cook? What am I going to
Yeah.
do? I could just pop into the freezer and get something. So
Yeah.
I need to be better about that.
Mhm.
So I want to move into your amazing business that you have. We know what prompted it, but what made you say, you know what, I'm actually going to do this? And tell us what all you make for your business because this is some healthy, good for you, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So when did that start?
So you know what? I started this before it was cool. Now it's a cool thing to do.
Now it's a cool thing to
Yes,
do.
it
Yeah.
was not cool when I started it, and it is now. So just preface that. Um,
Yes.
I started this, started learning about elderberry syrup. That's kind of the bread and butter. That's where a lot of my journey started with
Yeah.
researching. When I was pregnant with our oldest one, who's now 6.5. So this was probably 7.5, 8 years ago or so.
Okay.
I just started researching, how do I keep our family well? How do I, really was stressed thinking of having a child, taking off work, having to be in a doctor's office visit all the time, getting more exposed, getting more antibiotics, and just that cycle. And I just
Yeah.
knew I wanted to break that cycle for our family, for our generation. And I just did whatever it took to do that. So
Yeah.
elderberry syrup was kind of the place where we started.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the very first time I made it. Our oldest, one of the very first times anyway, our oldest was a baby, and our grandparent was here. And Nathan, my husband, got a really bad stomach virus. He was out. And I'm gonna be honest, I love my husband, but when men get sick,
Yep.
like, do they really get that sick?
Mm,
Okay, okay, is
the
it?
we know, we
We
know.
know,
It's
you
like
know where I'm
the end
going
of
with
the
that.
world has occurred, and are they going to make it?
That's right. That's right. It's like, come on, you're big and strong. Like, we can do better than this, right? Like,
Yes.
we stormed Normandy. We can do a stomach virus, right? Okay. So it's questionable.
Yeah.
So he went down. Well, then I went down. And well, you're the mom. You can't go down when you have a baby. So I
Right.
was literally stirring it over the stove, sitting in a chair, stirring over it, and I was having to just throw up all the time. So I was really sick. It was either food poisoning or stomach virus. So I would run, literally stir it, run out of the back, puke all over the backyard, like, because I couldn't get across the house, just over
Right.
the fence into the grass, come back, like lay on the table again, stir it up until I made it. And it literally changed it. We got so much better after we did it. No one else in the house got sick. And I thought, okay, there's something to this.
There's something.
Um, so then I just started sharing it with family and friends, just say, like, is anybody interested in this? And then I made the mistake of, well, I say mistake, I guess a blessing of posting it on one of the main pages here in our city, and just said,
Hmm.
hey, I have this available. Does anybody want it? It blew up. It went absolutely crazy, insane. We had all hands on deck, our family. I was like, you guys have to come over. Someone has to watch the kid.
We've
One of us
got to
has
make
to cook.
like several batch gallons of it.
Yeah, and I had this clipboard because I was used to making 1 or 2 jars, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, how do I make like 50 at a time? Because we have so many we have to make overnight. And so I'm like calculating, okay, this many for 1 or 2 times 50 times 100 times dividing by this. And it just blew up. And so I had a cooler on the front porch, totally ghetto. I had a cooler on the front porch.
Love it.
I had people come over, purchase it, leave money. And then as we kind of got a little bit bigger, I got a little refrigerator on the front. So we stepped up from the cooler to the refrigerator.
To the refrigerator. Yes.
In Venmo. So went from cash to Venmo. I was like, what? Look at us. Look at us.
This is
Get
the real
crazy.
deal.
Yeah. And then on the way, one time we were driving to Florida to see some family, like 12-hour road trip. And one of my long-term customers that was just very dedicated, she purchased from me probably every month, for several months in a row. At that point, maybe even a couple of years, she called and said, hey, have you ever thought about being in a store? I was at a store today and talked about you, and you should call them, and they're interested in having a conversation with you. I was like, okay. I had two, I
Wow.
think we had 2 babies at that point. So, or a newborn and, a 2-year-old. I was thinking,
Yeah.
how I don't even sleep. I don't even know
How
how
are
to
we
do
gonna?
this,
Yeah.
but I can't miss this opportunity. So I
Yeah.
called, and it was a local juice bar. And as soon as we got back from Florida, I faked it. I reached out to a couple of friends. I was like, how do you even do a storefront? What does it mean to be resale? How do I wholesale to them? Just did tons of research from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Then I looked
Right.
into, what's required for our laws here, with cooking and with the labeling, and just did a deep dive, took several months. I literally was licensed, in February of 2020. The world shut
Wow.
down in March of 2020. And I was able to get everything done with the inspector before they shut down and quit everything. So I was able to get into a lot of stores.
Yes.
COVID was out. Everybody was terrified between that and the flu. And so I was able to, the Lord just blessed it and gave me opportunity to have conversations and get it into several stores. So started with elderberry, moved into tinctures, herbal teas, oil roller bottles, just basically anything that we use at family. I thought, why not make it available to other families
Yes.
who don't have time to research it, and they just need it when they need it, which is when your kid is sick, right? They call you 9 o'clock at
Oh
night,
yes.
come over. Absolutely, I'm here. So it just kind of started from there.
So what's the name of your business? And your top seller is the elderberry syrup, which I have had. Delicious. Okay. I think a lot of people think about elderberry. They're like, what even is that?
Yeah.
And does it taste good? It tastes amazing.
Oh, thanks.
So whatever the recipe is,
I didn't
you
even
can
hear you
drink it.
say that. This is good.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like cough syrup. It doesn't taste, some things you drink and you're like, this tastes like trash. I mean, like bad.
Yeah.
This is delicious.
Yeah.
So tell us the name of the business
Yeah.
and just your top selling products.
Yeah. So it's Natalie's Elderberries. Try to make it easy with my name.
Yeah, there you
That
go.
was before we expanded into other things. But yeah, I would say the elderberry syrup is probably the number one. The next would be the tinctures. So it's just a tincture is just an herbal extract that's just a blend of herbs. So
Okay.
elderberry is also a blend of herbs, but it is made with local raw honey and
Okay.
lemon juice. So it's a refrigerated product. The extracts are not refrigerated. They're made with vegetable glycerin and alcohol. So they have a shelf
Okay.
stability aspect of it to it. They're just in small little, I think, 4-ounce bottles.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bring it on the airplane with you, and it's for different reasons. I have one for respiratory, one for immunity, one for allergies, one for calm, which is really good for moms.
Yeah.
So I just try to kind of just determine from my customer base, what are your biggest needs? What does you guys need help
Mm-hmm.
with?
Yeah.
And most of my customers are moms. So most of what I do
Perfect.
is just I get messages from desperate moms. Hey, my kid has an ear infection. They have a cough. What do I do? So I started
Yes.
developing products for that. And then when honestly, I've kind of run out of time. I don't have time to do anymore, really to make anymore. But
Yeah.
I love the coaching aspect and just the helping aspect to share what I've
Yes.
learned because, you get, like I said, we all have a certain capacity, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't have time right now, mentally probably, or time wise to go study for 12 hours to learn all the things. Well, I've
Yeah.
done that over the last 10 years. So if I already know it, let me share it with you, save you the
Exactly.
time. You go implement
Absolutely.
it
Yes.
and then get back to your life and not get bogged down. I think a lot of reason why parents don't do healthy things for their kids is because they don't know and they're very overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just stop in your tracks.
So
So
true.
I want to take away the overwhelm and help and just
Yes.
share the knowledge. And if it works great and you're on board with it, great. And if it doesn't, try another option,
Yeah. Well, the part where you talk about the coaching and really informing people because you have done the research is huge. I think a lot of people might get into things because it's like the latest fad,
Yeah.
or they might open a business because, oh, I can make a bunch of money doing this. But the fact that you actually have done the research, you know what you're talking about, you're making the recipes, you know what goes in it and why,
Mhm.
and you're utilizing it in your family. I
Yeah.
know you've told me stories about, um, one of your kids getting sick and implementing the the stuff that you have done holistically
Yeah.
and watching them get better without having to do antibiotics,
Yeah.
without having to go to the doctor to get on some form of, medication,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah.
So give us an example, like what an illness or something that they've gotten that you treated where they didn't have to get on antibiotics.
Yeah. So neither of our kids have had antibiotics or over the counter meds. That can change tomorrow, right? I don't credit any of that to me being phenomenal, or they're just having phenomenal, the Lord has blessed what we've done. And for whatever reason, that's just worked out. But there has
Yeah.
been very strategic work to do that and protecting their bodies so that they don't have toxic overload. I will say all of this started and was all bred from a place of desperation.
Hmm.
Just in our immediate family between a parent, siblings, and sibling spouses, we've had adenocarcinoma, thyroid cancer, breast cancer, um, colon issues, and
Yeah.
what the other autoimmune issues, of course, Crohn's disease,
Oh
um,
my gosh. Yeah.
all the
It's
things
just
like
it's
that.
just
And that's
everywhere. It's
yeah,
everywhere you look. I mean,
yeah,
everybody's suffering from some sort of autoimmune or
yes,
gut issue or something,
yes.
or like mental or, antidepressant, whatever it may be.
Yeah, everything that, and then Lyme, and then my son had seizures as a child,
Yeah.
and we saw even up until this last year more neurological type activity that wasn't a full on grand mal seizure like you used to have, but some others. So for us, it literally was just bred out of desperation. So when I want to say, "Oh, I'll just cave and just give them the jock," I know I can't because I know where we come from.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, kind of equated to like when you've tasted the goodness of the Lord and you have seen his goodness and his faithfulness and his love and his generosity, and you know that and you're changed by it, you can't accept less. And so that's where
Absolutely.
it is, that's kind of where we are, where I have felt awful before and I have been sick and I have had to take antibiotics growing up and doing all these things and still felt awful and still didn't fix things,
Yeah.
to researching it and going, there has to be something different. And so I have implemented what I've learned with our kids and I've seen it work. And so for me, I'm going, I've seen it. I want to shout it from the mountaintops that it works because I lived this for 6.5
You
years
have
with
seen
kids.
them get better by
Yeah,
giving them
these
what you
things.
have made.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one for just a specific example, the most recent is our daughter. She gets, I don't know if it's allergies or if it's just she's around someone who's sick. So she's more prone to like the runny nose congestion, more so than my son is. He just skips all that and just goes right to seizure mode. So I'm like,
Right.
do we settle for an ear infection
Yeah,
somewhere?
right.
Something like a sore throat. Do we have those? No. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have to go to the full on, like,
Right.
like panic mode?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, give me a heart attack. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So for her, what we've done, even this week actually. So we use garlic mullein drops. It's
Okay.
just herb. Mullei's an herb. It is phenomenal for drying out mucus and just the fluid in the ears. So we do garlic mullein drops in her ears.
Okay.
I give a couple of tinctures. One's a respiratory tincture that I make, which dries up all the phlegm in your throat. It's made for cough and congestion. I diffuse oils in her room at night, and it immediately stops the cough. Like ones that are specific to respiratory. When it goes off in the middle of the night, she'll start back a little bit, and so I'll just refill it, and it clears it out. So it helps clear out the mucus and the kind of phlegm.
Wow.
Honey, garlic honey. I started fermenting that myself. So you just get a jar, you pour a bunch of raw garlic in it, like this peeled, and then you fill the jar with local raw honey. That's key, local and raw. Not another story. The stuff that shows it's raw in the store is not, which is insane. It's filled with additives and sugar. So I'm paying.
How do they get away with saying that? Just
and
drives me insane.
And the
you
labels
think you're actually getting raw honey, and it's not.
And it's not. So then you're doing yourself a disservice because it's filled with artificial sugar, which is immune suppressant. So for us, I get tons of garlic and honey, which the kids love. Again, it's because it's a palate. They know, they've always known it.
They've always had it.
It's fine. And so we just do it. Lots of vitamin C. So I get them elderberry syrup. I get the capsules of vitamins. So stinging nettle, vitamin C, those are really good for drying up kind of mucusy stuff or keeping the cough going so it doesn't settle in your lungs. So I just open the capsule, pour it into the elderberry syrup or into the garlic and honey, and they love it. I think it's great. And then I just rub oils specific to inflammation, like copaiba. There's lavender, there's purify, some others that are specific to inflammation and the fluid buildup and things and lymphatic drainage. Rub it around the ears and then down the lymphatic area here and just kind of do some massages like that to get the fluid out. And then chiropractic adjustments. And then the other side of that is just healthy diet, because if they're getting artificial sugar and they're getting tons of dairy because dairy is mucus causing and is inflammatory. So that's the time to remove it if you do eat dairy. So you just remove the things that are causing the toxic buildup and then give things to support the body, and the illness will come out. When you don't do that and we overload ourselves with medications, what it does is it pushes the illness further into our body.
Suppresses,
it hides it. It suppresses the symptoms. We think we're well. It drives disease deeper. So then the disease is going to manifest itself in a different way, which we're then taking other medications to make up for that. I learned that the hard way. We've all done that. And, half of my family's been through cancer treatments and the ones that are still alive have been through all that. And so I just thought we have to do something with the genetics that we have and making our lifestyle different so that when we get older, we don't have to have someone caring for us in our young ages. We can be vibrant. We can be active with our kids. We can feel good. And like I said, be in the game. And that's
absolutely
kind of what started all this.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming on today and sharing your journey with it and how you are living your lifestyle. I think it's amazing, and I am striving to get there. Gotta make those choices. But for those listening, yes, which I do, and I've gotten sick, and Natalie's like, I'm bringing over a bag of goodies.
I'm bringing over the illegal arsenal.
Ooh, yeah, it's like, let me drink this elderberry syrup. It's just amazing what you're doing. So I just want to thank you first and foremost for coming on today. It's Natalie's Elderberries. I know you're super busy, but for anybody that's kind of looking for a solution, to know that there are healthy products out there that what's going in them is good for your body. And like you said, we have the ability to really do the research ourselves if we really, really want to. If we want to figure out what's going on and what's causing things, we have that information at our fingertips. So it's there. It's just a matter of looking it up and taking the time to do it and making the changes. So thank you for inspiring anybody listening, and myself, to to really start taking those steps to do that. And yeah,
Thank you
I
for
just
having me. I appreciate it.
I'm just so grateful. So yes, so anybody out there, and like you said, you do coaching and stuff like that. So hey, if you guys have any questions or anything, Natalie's Elderberries is where it is.
Right. Give me a call. I wanna help. Even really the products are just a platform for letting me help. When you have a
Yes,
when you're desperate, you're sick, your child is sick, that's one of the lowest places you can be. You're exhausted, you're
yes,
terrified. And so at that point, your brain is really short circuiting anyway. So give me a call.
yeah,
I don't know everything. I know a few things. What I know, I'll share for free. So be
sounds perfect. All right. Well, hey guys, thanks for listening today. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you next time on Amomynous.